Right then. Hello everybody, my name is Adam Clery. This is a football channel, hence the name. And in the Europa League final, you had two managers we are constantly told are too tactically rigid to ever change what they're doing. And one of them had made a series of really smart tweaks to manage the game as it went on, and the other, here in the 86th minute, had not made a single structural change. Or, to put that another way, in the battle of the Premier League's most unadaptable, stubborn, ideologically imprisoned within their own minds managers, one of them proved that actually he's really good at this and got it spot on the night, and the other, quite spectacularly, did not. And I'm going to show you both of those right now. Lads, it's Spurs, but like in a good way. So to start, both teams did have a game plan. Now that might shock you if you watched the match because you barely actually saw it, but there were things from the start they were trying to do. Man United wanted to stagger Casemiro and Fernandes like this, with one dropping deeper and one pushing on, to open up better passing angles, making them harder to press and getting them up the pitch much quicker. Good stuff. And Spurs, for their money, wanted to leave Richarlison and Johnson extremely wide to force Man United's wing-backs to sit deep and thus make them a back five. And the idea there being that because you force them so far back, it really isolates Fernandes and Casemiro, so when Tottenham's fullbacks invert into the middle, because that's how Ange likes to play, they should completely overwhelm them in that area. But the reason I'm just showing you these two stills and talking about it rather than actually giving you any evidence of it happening is because neither of those things really happened. For like the entire first half, neither of these game plans really materialized in any sort of noticeable way, because I have never ever seen two teams simultaneously so afraid of playing their own brand of football in a final. Like, Spurs are the very poster boys in English football for just retaining the ball at the back with nice, neat little interchanges to bait the opposition on and then go through them like a bad curry. And yet in this game of football, they got rid of that ball from their own defensive third like it had a timer and 2 sticks of dynamite on it. Like, this is them in that first half, so it's still 0-0. They're trying to play in theory, and it's just the very opposite of everything Ange ball is supposed to be. Like Vicario, pretty much just going long. Romero, just going long. Porro, just going long. Like, genuinely, look at this. This is the team with the lowest or the second lowest long ball percentage in the Premier League this season, and there was just like no attempt whatsoever to engage in structured play out from the back. And this is the only example I can even find of them trying to set it up. Like, everybody's in position. This is how they would normally build out from the back. Man United show the hand with how they're going to press them, and they think about it, but nope, bang, not taking that chance. And it wasn't just them, obviously. Like, this is Andre Onana's pass map from that first half, and you can see he's not averse to giving it to one of the centre-backs when they've got it at the back, but when it comes time for him to play forward, zero interest whatsoever in anything short. He was hitting the middle and the far end of the pitch every single time as well. So as a result, either by like design or by nerves, both teams just like completely abandoned the middle of the pitch. Nobody wanted to be the one to get caught in the build-up or to give it away with a bad pass or lose it on the turn. So the entire first half just became a game of moving the ball out to the flanks, whether or not there was anything actually on there or not. Whether or not, that's superb English. Now, for Man United, this became about getting the ball to Ahmad, allowing him to get at the fullback 1v1, and they had a small degree of joy doing that, nothing particularly clear-cut. But for Tottenham, it became all about crosses. There was something like 25 or 30 crosses in that first half, pretty evenly split between both teams. They constantly stuck it out to the flank and didn't know what else to do. Yet despite this, neither Rasmus Højlund nor Dominic Solanke had a single touch in the opposition box. And yet, as Vanarama a first half as this was, it gave Tottenham a massive advantage over Man United. We have seen pretty consistently this season that when this Man United side defends deep, if you make good runs off the ball, you can drag individual defenders way out of position and create little pockets of space as a result. Against West Ham, this really simple run from Bowen dragged them out of position, created this amount of space, and from there, they could really easily slip Kudus in, and that's where they get that goal from. And Tottenham, prior to the goal, had 2 or 3 really good deliveries from the wide areas, which should have alerted Man United that they needed to try and stay in their shape and not get dragged around. And yet, while that Brennan Johnson goal just looks like a scrappy mix-up between some defenders and a goalkeeper who isn't going to take command of that area, it's actually a very good exploitation of this flaw. First off, Sarr makes this run, which completely pulls Lenny Yoro out of position. Now, having created this pocket of space here, very similar to the Kudus goal, Bentancur makes this run, hoping to capitalise on it, but credit where it's due, he is quite diligently tracked by Bruno Fernandes. Now, at this point, Man United are going to feel like they've pretty well covered this phase of play, but they are now defensively all over the place. And as they're trying to reset their shape, that's when the ball comes in. Because of the gap they've made, it pulls Maguire and Shaw too far over. Like, they're both individually trying to close that gap to Lenny Yoro. And it's subtle, and it's obviously still really scrappy, but just those few yards are what makes all the difference in this goal. Like, just before it comes in, you can see Luke Shaw pointing at Brennan Johnson to pass him onto Dorgu so he can then step up onto Solanke because Maguire's trying to close the distance to Yoro. But then as the three of them begin to move back into their positions, Shaw should really take responsibility for Johnson again. He's too slow in doing that, and he gets caught wrong side. So right here, at the point of delivery, Luke Shaw does not have a sight of the goal scorer. And the temptation here, I think, is that Dorgu should just take responsibility for that, realise that even though he's passing him back onto Shaw, he hasn't got in the right position and just deal with it. But you've got to remember, Patrick Dorgu is a 20-year-old left wing-back. He's not really suited to defending crosses into the box, and Luke Shaw is an extremely experienced player. So, like, it is kind of his fault, but I don't think it's his fault that it's his fault, if that makes sense. But regardless of who you're blaming, Johnson is able to get in that really small gap, get a touch on the ball, and hey, look, that goal's never going to win the Puskas Award, but it did quite literally win the Europa League final, so who cares? And the second it hits the back of, well, not the back of the net, the, like, tiny little side bit of the net, look at Shaw's reaction. He turns around and he just looks at Dorgu. And obviously, yes, it's just all one big defensive mix-up, but you just rewind it a couple of seconds and it's one that's quite predictably caused by good running into the box, just totally destabilising how Man United is set up, which happens a lot. And this goal was, believe it or not, Spurs' last attempt on goal in this game. Not last good attempt on goal, not last attempt on target, their last attempt, full stop. They declared at 1. Like, you can see it here on the opted, like, XG graph that was charting all the attempts. Like, I can't imagine that second half was easy to watch, but what you then saw was Postecoglu begin to steadily nullify every single attacking threat that Man United had until it finished. First off, they did the thing we're told they never ever do, and they went to a nice, steady, dependable, compact, low block. A team that were once set up like this versus Chelsea when they had like 8 or 9 men or something like that was now in this shape in a major final. And just, if you haven't been watching a lot of Spurs this season, they have sort of done this before, the second leg against Frankfurt in particular. It seems to be something they're quite happy doing to grind out European results, but just won't let anyone see them do in the Premier League. Anyway, the objective here was to deny Manchester United any sort of useful space or time in front of their own box. And the reason for that is very obvious. Man United's best player is Bruno Fernandes. That's the area where he's most likely to hurt you. So they put legs in there, they put strength in there, they put bodies in there, and it just killed that threat. Now, these are all the passes he was able to make in the second half. And you can see, obviously, they do enjoy such good territory and such good possession that he is getting on the ball here, and putting it left and putting it right. But when it comes time to do the Bruno Fernandes thing, make something happen with a forward pass into the box or into the final third, there's hardly any, and none of them are successful. But then Manchester United responded, because if you remember in that first half, the one area of the pitch they were getting joy was isolating Ahmad against a fullback. So they brought on Garnacho, which you could argue they should have just started with, to try and do that on the same side, to double their best threat. But Ange and Spurs were ready for that also. I'm going to show you Richarlison's heat map from the whole game, right? You can see how much defensive work he was prepared to do on that side of the pitch. Spent more time sitting back and helping his fullback than he did going up the other end. So all of a sudden, Tottenham did another thing we're told they never do. They doubled up on both of these fullbacks. So now, we're just going to bring Bruno Fernandes back into this equation. You've got a situation for Manchester United where it's too crowded in the middle of the pitch for you to play through Tottenham, but also they've got numerical advantages in these wide areas, meaning you can't even play around them. And this is not a video where I'm just going to try and dump loads of criticism on Ruben Amorim, but I think you saw in these moments how badly wrong he got it with the starting 11. Because Man United had 42 or whatever minutes before Tottenham started defending for their lives, and the game was quite open. And you could have had Garnacho having the same sort of freedom Ahmad had if you'd started with him. But regardless, at some point in this game, Spurs were going to always try and lock down these sides if that's where you were having joy. And the idea should be that your wing-backs then provide you with an overlap to take one of those defenders away. And while Dorgu and Garnacho did get a bit of joy doing that on that side, because he started with Mazraoui at right wing-back, that was never an option in the first half when Ahmad was actually having some joy. So then, obviously, you've watched football before. If you can't get in behind the opposition down the sides and you can't play through them through the middle, what does every team inevitably end up getting reduced to? Just crosses into the box. And that, in theory, is not the worst option for Manchester United, because Ruben Amorim has proved in this competition especially, he is partial to sticking Harry Maguire up front as a central target, and that can really unsettle defences. But Ange, give him his due, was ready for that as well. And not long after the introduction of Joshua Zirkzee to add even more height to Man United's threat into the box, he brought on Kevin Danso, thus taking them to this 5-4-1 shape, with Pape Sarr now out on this side, using his extra legs and his extra running power to stop Man United getting any overloads on the side where they did actually have two attackers. And clearly you can see it still denies them access into the middle of the pitch. It still stops them getting around the sides. No answer to it from Man United. And it just limited them to just sticking it into the box as best they could, even when they got Diogo Dalot on. And this is every single cross Man United had after the Danso substitution, which is like the 78th or the 80th minute or something crazy like that. They just kept lumping it into the box as often and as frequently as they could. And the only cross that led to anything resembling a good chance was that Luke Shaw header near the end. Tottenham were even on occasion, having the wherewithal to drop this back five into a back six just to stop anybody getting free. And what you were looking at with this shape and with this shape is a manager successfully adapting his principles of football in order to get a result in a really important game. But what you had on the other side of the technical area was a manager either unwilling or unable to make those sort of changes, no matter how much to his side's detriment it was proving to be. Man United finished this game with Fernandes, Zirkzee, Garnacho and Ahmad as the only attackers on the pitch. They still had a full back five and Casemiro on the pitch for an entire half where they had 80% of the ball. Tottenham had set their stall out pretty much from the start of the second half that they were happy with one and they thought they could keep Manchester United out. So they gave them almost complete territorial dominance and as much possession as they wanted. And yet, the system didn't really change. The shape didn't really change. The personnel didn't even really change. So you kept having situations like this where Manchester United are so on top and Spurs are so deep, and the only thing you're going to be able to do is stick the ball in the box. And yet, just count it on one finger. It's only the centre forwards in any real position there to get on the end of a cross, because that's his job, and everybody else does different things in this system regardless of what's happening in the game. And this, for me, is just the most damning thing of all, right? So this is a Tottenham goal kick with about 3 minutes left, and so they've reset into their shape. One of the only times they got a chance to do it because of just how chaotic the end of that match was, right? What do you see? Minute to go, 1-0 down, chasing a trophy, and what have you got here? You've got a back five that's been pinned back because of the way Tottenham is set up. You've got Casemiro and Fernandes on slightly different levels to enable you to play out, and then just 3 players up front. Exactly the same as they had in the first minute of this match. The only difference is that now that centre forward is Harry Maguire, and he hasn't even gone to join Joshua Zirkzee up front. His going up front has pushed Zirkzee back into one of those wide 10 positions. It's just, for all the criticism, all the shit Ange Postecoglu's had this season about being unwilling to change, just uncompromising, and yada yada, all of that, this still image right here is easily one of the most insane things I have ever seen in a fight. Like, how do you expect to win a big game against a team that is adapting its shape and its system if you can't even put your centre-back up front with your centre-forward? If that itself necessitates you shuffling everyone else around. But I would like to clarify, this game for me is more about Spurs getting things right than Man United getting things wrong, because the one time they did force a bit of chaos and force a mistake in Tottenham's back line, Mickey van de Ven does this. And it's eye-catching, it's almost superhuman, but it's no more of a contribution than pretty much every single Spurs player attempted to give in this game. Pap Sarr in particular, who I'm now a massive fan of after watching that. He was fantastic. Like, every single Spurs player put in the blocks, put in the challenges, defended really deep. They visibly wanted to win this final a lot more than the Man United players did. And for all the tactic, system, shape, blah, 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 said this in the Crystal Palace FA Cup final video, that gets you something. That gets you these little moments. So yeah, that's why Ange Postecoglu won the Europa League final and Ruben Amorim did not, because in these games, things change, momentum swings, things happen, and you have to be able to adapt to it. And for all everybody said he doesn't do that, he did it 3 or 4 times in this match, absolutely perfectly. Congratulations, Spurs. But yeah, that's it from me. Please do subscribe to us here at ACFC if you've enjoyed this video. We're going to have loads through the summer. Is your team buying a player? We will almost certainly be talking about it. Maybe I'll give the Club World Cup a go. I'm going to need to do something. You can get me across all the social medias. Still looks absolutely class. Adam Clery, Clery. And just, yeah, trophies are nice, aren't they? Imagine supporting a football team that didn't win a trophy this season. Couldn't be me. Goodbye.